Alright guys, so it's been a month since I've last posted a video. I know I've been posting videos less and less often. To be honest, I kind of expected more of a reaction to me starting a new YouTube channel specifically for animation, but I guess it shouldn't surprise me considering that most people are afraid of animation systems in Unreal, and I haven't really gotten into the deepest parts of it yet. So anyway, I just wanted to address that before I get started. So in this video, I'm going to pick up where I left off last time. So I should have covered this in the last video, but it completely, I just completely forgot about it. Anyway, so we're talking about post-process anim blueprints. So what is a post-process animation blueprint? It's a animation instance, just like the one that, you know, your locomotion and everything is coming from. So it's an anim instance. It's just assigned to a specific skeletal mesh, and it gets executed after that locomotion animation blueprint gets processed. So after that one gets processed, then it'll process the post-process animation blueprint. Now, there is probably going to be some extra overhead. I have not profiled that, but I assume that there are some there is an extra performance cost to utilizing that. However, it can save you a lot of time in the long run. So for some people, it might be worth it. So starting off, all the metahumans, they have one for the head and they have one for the body. So on the body, you'll see it has an animation blueprint. And then every skeletal mesh component has a disable post-process blueprint right here. One thing you need to know about this is these post-process animation blueprints, depending on what they're doing, they can mess up your animation if you're creating or modifying animations in Unreal. So whenever you're baking an animation to a control rig, before you start keying frames, you need to make sure that you disable this post-process blueprint. Otherwise, you're going to bake those transforms into the animation, and then the post-process is going to reapply it on top of that, which is going to double those offsets. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that, because the post-process blueprints are normally used for various purposes. Specifically for the metahumans, they are used to drive corrective bones. So I've briefly covered corrective bones in previous videos, and I will go over how post-process animation blueprints are used to drive corrective bones, but they can also be used for other things too, like preventing armor from clipping into the character. You know, if you have armor on the outside of them, yeah, you can use it for so many different. There's so many different use cases there. The heads use them for a totally different purpose, but I'll just go ahead and get started with where they're stored at, actually, or assigned, I should say. So if you open up Gasp and you go to the Kellen character, he should still be in there, even though he's not actually assigned a blueprint anymore. In the latest one, he may be removed in future Gasp videos. So if that's the case, then you can just go and download any metahuman and add any metahuman to your project. Once you've added a metahuman to your project, find its skeletal mesh and just open it up. So by default, any actual metahuman that you download, they will always come with the post-process already assigned to them, just so that you know, because there's a distinction there. In Gasp, they added, or they did have a bunch of other characters in here, and they were mocap prototypes or something. You know, they were full body and stuff. They didn't have post-process animation blueprints assigned to them because they weren't actually meant to be used in a game or a cinematic. These are, and so they'll have those post-process anim blueprints. So if you open up the skeletal mesh and you go to Window and Asset Details, if it's not open already, then you can get to it from there. If you go to the Asset Details and you scroll down, you'll see an animation category, and you'll see a post-process anim blueprint right under the animation category. And if you browse to it and open it up, this is what it looks like. So like I said, I've gone over the corrective bones in previous videos. If you haven't watched those videos, these videos are meant to be watched in the order that I've placed them within the playlists. And each playlist I'll expect you to watch each of those playlists in the order in which they're listed to. They'll have numbers within their names, and those numbers represent the order. So anyway, moving on. As far as corrective bones, they're used to help preserve the volume of the mesh across poses. And a pose driver, for the metahumans anyway, the pose drivers are used to drive those corrective bones so that you'll get the optimal, volume preservation during the different poses. I'm not going to go into depth of how pose drivers work, but basically what you do is you just create poses and you set them up as a pose asset, and then you assign those pose assets to a pose driver, and each of the frames on that pose asset will show up right here in this pose target list, and then you'll set up some pose driver logic in here. And then once you've set up that pose driver logic and tweaked it, then what it'll do is it'll just automatically rotate that bone and reorient it based on the pose that your character is currently in. All right, so that's how they work. As far as this use case, like I said, you can use them to prevent like armor pieces, like say a shoulder piece, from clipping into the arm. There is one YouTuber who has a video specifically on setting up a pose driver for that purpose. I may try to find his video and maybe link it in the description. But yeah, he does a lot on control rigs, and I highly recommend his channel if you're interested in control rigs. And I'll get into control rigs a bit later. I'm not sure if I'll go as far into depth on them as him. He probably has more experience with those than I do, but I do know a lot of tricks that I'm not sure if he knows. So anyway, so moving on, if you go to the kill and face mesh, you'll see he also has a post process animation blueprint. And now remember, like I told you, this gets processed post AnimBP. So whatever animation blueprint is assigned here, or if the face has one, the face does have one, then the face's post-process anim blueprint will get executed after the face AnimBP is executed, which gets executed after the body's animation blueprint, and it's post-processing too. So yeah, that's basically how it works. That's the order of operation for things. Whatever is under this, it'll get processed like this. But there are ways to change the order. I'm not going to get into that right now. Let me see. Yeah, actually, here's an example already for you. So right here, there's an add tick prerequisite component. So just so you know, they've already set up an example here for you. And they're making the root component get attached parent. They're making it tick after this child component at index 0 on the root component. So index 0 would be the body, the root component. It's attached parent, whatever that is. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. This is probably a really bad example. But yeah, you could make this animation blueprint tick after this one, for example. Okay, that's basically how you can use them. But this video is not about that stuff. I'll get into that more later. So anyway, the face has its own post-process animation blueprint. And if you come in here, you'll see this is a child blueprint. And you can tell if you look up at the parent class, and this is not gray. If this is not gray, then it's a locally created parent class. In this case, if we browse to it, you'll see it exists right here. Yeah, but if you open this up, you'll see this. Okay, so it's not gray, it'll be white. But yeah, this is an anim instance, just a regular anim instance, just like a regular animation blueprint. So if we open this up right here, you'll see this is also an anim instance. It just happens that that this anim instance gets executed after the primary one does. So anyway, this stuff right here, it's mostly just handling stuff regarding like head IK, moving the head around. Yeah, so they're doing some neck corrective pose driver stuff here regarding the neck's corrective bones. So the neck, the head itself, the head mesh has its own corrective bones, and so they're driving those as well right here. This is a pretty complex one, actually. It has 37 poses in it. Yeah, and then some of this stuff is being driven by the, I guess, curves that are created by the MetaHuman animator. This right here is the head control switch specifically. So it'll either use this control rig that drives the head using IK, or it won't, based off the value of this head control switch curve on that animation. And then they're doing some other stuff. And then they have an anim node, rig logic. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to basically give you a brief introduction to post-process anim blueprints, because those do get processed after the primary animation blueprint. So anyway, that covers post-process anim blueprints, and I'll see you in the next video.